If you couldn't already tell, I'm a huge Sonic fan, and with the abundance of Sonic content on my channel lately, I thought it'd be cool to do a Devil Fruit video for this franchise. Then I remember just how many Sonic characters there were. One thing that's grossly apparent about Sonic is the ever-expanding cast of characters each time a new game is introduced. Not to mention multiple other forms of media featuring even more characters that don't show up in the games. For the sake of my sanity, I'll only be covering game characters. However, I will entertain certain IDW characters as well, since those comics are closely tied to the games. Since there are so many Sonic characters, I've decided to make this a series of videos, each focusing on a chunk of the cast, with this video only covering characters from the classic era. I established a rule that I wanted to stick to characters that we know can fight, but I might make exceptions to that rule for this series. I also wanted to make a couple of exceptions for certain robots of this franchise, despite excluding them in my MGR video. I did this because I wasn't too sure if robots were capable of having Devil Fruit powers, and the quote-unquote robots that we've seen in One Piece have them are actually cyborg clones. We have seen inanimate objects possess Devil Fruits, but that doesn't completely confirm nor deny if that applies to robots. So for the sake of my sanity, we'll just include them. However, seeing as how there are multiple robots in Sonic, I'll only cover the ones that feel like full-fledged characters. If I don't cover a robotic doppelganger or a variant of an original character, you can just assume they would have had the same Devil Fruit as the original. For example, Metal Sonic has certain powers that Sonic can't do, making him slightly more than just a robotic double with a mirrored power set. Omega is basically a perfected version of his predecessor Gamma, despite both being E100 series robots. I'll try to include as many characters as I can, but forgive me if I end up missing some that you felt would have qualified. After all, that's what the comments are for. Also, you may end up seeing certain characters more than once. So with all this in mind, let's finally start this video properly.
Knight of the Round Table, servant of King Arthur. State your name and your master, sir.
I'm Sonic, Sonic the Hedgehog. I have no master, except the wind that blows free.
Shit. Okay, so I already went through this problem with other characters that have an affinity towards wind. While Sonic isn't a straight-up Aeromancer, that is the most fitting moniker for him. But there's still no confirmed wind fruit. Surprisingly though, there is a fruit that fits Sonic just as well, being the Spring fruit. Next to the Rings and Chaos Emeralds, the Springs are just as iconic in the games, and the fruit itself has the potential of increasing the user's speed. It can even allow the users to use long-range attacks by turning their limbs into springs and compressing them. Sonic already makes it a habit of ricocheting off surfaces like a ping pong ball, so this wouldn't be too different from his natural moveset. There are multiple fruits that could fit for Tails. The first that came to mind was the Float fruit, which allows the user to levitate himself and any non-living object at their disposal. But I realized this fruit would be a better fit for another character that we'll get to later down the line. The Brain fruit was a second option, considering Tails' intellect is on par with Eggman's, and although the fruit doesn't make you smarter, your storage capacity for knowledge is practically infinite now, at the expense of humongous brain growth. The final option I thought about would be the Magnet fruit. Tails has been depicted in multiple forms of Sonic media to also be a gearhead, and he has tons of gadgets and inventions that he's utilized for multiple situations. I think either of these fruits would be very fitting for him. I told you to be seeing certain characters more than once here. Well, technically the same character, certain games and even some forms of media like the Fleetway comics have treated Supersonic as his own individual. Not only that, but his power is also greatly different from what he can do, as opposed to his normal form. Seeing as how he's now shimmering with a golden radiant aura, the Glint Glint fruit is easily the most fitting choice here. With this fruit, the user can travel at the speed of light, shoot lasers or create constructs made of light, and even transform into light itself, easily making them invulnerable to normal attacks. Most of these being something Supersonic has already demonstrated. What can I say, an incredibly powerful form deserves an incredibly powerful Devil Fruit. Since there are other characters that have super forms, I think it's fair to say they should also be given this fruit.
Gotcha, my darling Sonic.
Amy, what are you doing here?
Sonic, this time there's no way out of marrying me.
A very central part of Amy's character is her love for not just Sonic, but her friends in general. Frontiers really highlighted this, showing us that she has a high belief in the power of love, wishing to share it with the world. With that in mind, I gave Amy the Love fruit. The fruit's power lets the user shoot a beam that petrifies a target with lustful thoughts of the user, no matter how little they may seem. Although it should be noted that the beam is ineffective if the target is either distracted by another emotion, unable to see the user, or truly has no lustful thoughts towards the user to begin with. Even though Amy is considered a cute character, I fail to recall any Sonic characters being charmed by her, at least none that are willing to admit it. However, the user can still petrify parts of a target's body through physical attacks, regardless of the requirements. So while Amy may not get the most mileage from this fruit, it can still be useful overall. Now I just wonder if we can apply it to weapon strikes as well, because that would be both devastating and terrifying to be hit by a huge ass hammer, turned to stone, and shattered to pieces within a single sequence. Like I said earlier in this vid, Metal Sonic has ended up becoming a lot more than just another robotic duplicate of Sonic. So I think it's only fair that he gets his own Devil Fruit. The Barrier Fruit is a decent fit for him, since he utilizes a similar ability known as the Black Shield in SA2. But we've also seen Metal have the ability to copy other characters' powers in both Sonic Heroes and Sonic Rivals respectively. Now, you'd think there wouldn't be a Devil Fruit that allows the user to copy other Devil Fruit powers. And you'd be right. But non-canon Devil Fruits are a thing, and after doing some super huge digging, there actually is a Devil Fruit that does just that, known as the Kopi Kopi no Mi. Yeah, this thing doesn't even have an English translation. As the name implies, the user can copy another Devil Fruit user's abilities as well as their appearance. However, contact with the target is required in order to initiate it. So, I guess you could think of it as a superior version of the Clone Fruit, although it's only ever been shown off at the One Piece premiere show.
This is so non-canon it hurts.
I guess if I really had to reach, I could also give Metal the Rumble Fruit. In multiple Sonic games, Metal has expelled dangerous amounts of electrical energy in an attempt to harm Sonic, so having a very destructive low gear power fits him pretty well too. And if I really wanted to go the extra mile, I could give him the Fish Fruit Model Dragon, because Metal Sonic's not only turned into a giant monster once, but twice. Knuckles, time and time again, has been shown to have immense physical strength in multiple forms of Sonic media. Heck, in his very first appearance, he straight up knocks Sonic out of his super form. Yeah, that's Supersonic. So the Tremor fruit easily goes to him. I did play with the idea of giving him the Magma, and Momo fruits though. Some of his attacks have been shown to have eruptive after effects, and Knuckles can dig like a mole. However, these two traits of his aren't as consistent as his overall strength, which is why the Tremor fruit is still the most fitting option. Hypersonic. Who? Honey. Who? Okay, so Honey's not a well-known Sonic character, and she technically made her first official appearance in an HD re-release of Sonic the Fighters, which came out in 2012. But it's been confirmed she was in the game's original code, which came out in 1996. I'll go ahead and give her the Cat fruit model leopard. It might initially seem redundant, but Honey's design is pretty much based off of a character from another Sega game called Fighting Vipers, which came out a year prior. In fact, not only does the game share the same engine as Sonic the Fighters, but the character from that game also has the name Honey. So we could consider the one in Sonic to be her cat equivalent. I could also give her the Garb fruit, since in the Archie comics she's a fashion designer and has her own clothing brand. Vector is the leader of Team Chaotix. As you can clearly see, even in his debut appearance, he's always been seen wearing headphones, and even some of his earliest concept art depicted him being in a band with Sonic. So it makes the most sense for him to have the Tone fruit. This fruit allows the user to transform their body parts into instruments. Any sound played from the user will have devastating effects on whatever target is nearby to hear it. Another option is the Swim fruit, which lets the user swim in solid matter, being either the ground itself or even walls. While there are plenty of Sonic characters that can swim, Vector is surprisingly the only semi-aquatic animal in the Sonic cast, so I think it's fair to say he is the best swimmer among them all. Espio is thankfully an easy one. Being a chameleon and already having the ability to turn invisible, he gets the Clear fruit. In fact, having this fruit gives him a decent power buff, as anything the user is in contact with will also turn invisible. This means that his usual weapons of choice, being a shuriken and kunai, would stay invisible until thrown at the target, and although he hasn't utilized this ability outside of Sonic the Fighters, he can also use his tongue to attack as well. Since Charmy has a giant ass stinger on his giant ass, he gets the Spike fruit, which lets the user sprout spikes from their body. Apparently just being stung by Charmy is pretty painful. So just imagine how painful it'd be if he were covered in stingers. Definitely doesn't sound like a fun time. Nowadays, Mighty and Ray are less obscure characters, but they've actually appeared even before Knuckles, with the former's last appearance prior to Mania ironically being Knuckles Chaotix. Like his name implies, Mighty's strength is comparable to Knuckles, and while I could give him the Tremor fruit, I decided to lean more towards his defensive strengths, like his shell, which has been shown to be very durable. The Twinkle fruit would be very fitting for him, since it allows the user to tank some very powerful attacks. Ray is basically the Tails to Mighty's Sonic. Being a flying squirrel means he has the ability to glide, and there's not much else going for him besides that, so flying squirrel smile it is. Bang the Sniper, aka Knack the Weasel, Bark the Polar Bear, and Bean the Dynamite are often showcased as a trio, known as the Hooligans in the comics. But they've all made appearances in games and made cameos in Mania. Despite being the leader of the group, Fang's not all that strong, often using gadgets or mechs to give himself an edge in fights. One thing consistent about his character is having his pop gun, which explains his namesake. With that in mind, I thought the Mark fruit would fit very well for him, as it allows the user to mark a target they've touched and send any object flying to them, regardless of where they are. Wait, that sounds a lot like a Bark's been depicted as the strong silent type in his appearances, with his strength being comparable to Knuckles and Mighty. This also makes him a contender of the Tremor fruit or Strong fruit. Again, with not much else going for him other than that. Bean gets the Bomb fruit because, like his namesake, he often uses bombs in combat. Again, not really much else going for him other than guy who likes bombs would become Bomb Man, so he himself can go boom boom. Heavy and Bomb. Who? Exactly. Dr. Ivo Robotnik, or the name he was always known by, Dr. Eggman, is arguably just as iconic a character in media as Sonic himself. Dude was even considered to be the de facto mascot for Sega at one point, until he lost out to the Blue Hedgehog. Seeing as how another mad scientist is currently the user of the fruit in One Piece, Eggman having the brain fruit made sense. But the biggest thing that Eggman is known for is having an absolute multitude of inventions. Robots, mechs, vehicles, machines, the dude's even created entire cities populated with his robots. Let's also not forget that this madman achieved his goal of creating an incredibly dangerous amusement park twice in the span of 2 games. There's no question Eggman is easily the most deserving of the magnet fruit. This man creates entire armadas of robots on the daily. Can you imagine what he could do with a devil fruit? We'd have like 5 Eggman lands by now. Okay, I think that covers all of the classic cast. Well, at least the ones that were relevant enough to be worthy of a devil fruit. Like I said earlier, if I missed anybody not addressed in this video, or if you felt someone could have had a devil fruit not mentioned, feel free to let me know. We've just scratched the surface of the abundance of Sonic characters here, and this ride's just getting started. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please leave a like if you did, and consider subscribing if you want to check out more of my content. Until then, see ya later.